Get rolling here. All right. So hello everyone and happy Monday. Hope everyone had a great weekend and is having a great week so far. We have a few new faces joining us for the hangout this week. So if you haven't participated in one before, hi, I'm Chuck and welcome. I've only had a few questions asked thus far. So I did want to mention that I have the QA portion of the hangout turned on. There is a delay between when you submit them and I get to see them, unfortunately. So I'd say please submit them as soon as you think of a question rather than waiting till the very end. Sometimes what happens is people wait till the very last second to submit and I don't actually get to see the question at all. But I'd like to go ahead and get right into the questions. The first question is in regard to protein powder, and the question comes from Jess. Jess wasn't sure which protein drink to go with. She said that she favored the taste of Muscle Milk, but that GNC recommended to her their store brand. But she wasn't a fan of the taste. So I'd like to answer by saying that for the most part, for things like protein drinks and bars, you're likely to get the best price online. GNC is always going to recommend you their house brand over anything else, regardless of whether it's best for you, because if you buy the house brand, it's best for GNC. I have like a GNC Gold card. I really only use it in cases when they have like a really good deal online, or if I am out and I just need to stop and grab something real quick. But for the most part, if I'm planning in advance, I would go and look for something online and try to find the best bargain. When it comes to protein powder, though, I do want to caution you that there are some shady manufacturers out there. So you have to be really careful if you're solely looking at price online. So it's probably best to get some opinions from people, either from your group. You can certainly ask me. You can ask around Photocracy, or you can ask pretty much anyone else just to kind of get a general feel of what brands they're comfortable with. I've had a bad experience myself. There was a company, they're still around, but I'm never going to buy from them again. They're called American Pure Whey. So a couple of people were saying how good of a deal they got on their whey protein. It was really good price. So I bought some, but the taste was disgustingly sweet. So it was so sweet that it wasn't even like a artificial sweetener sweet, but like an actual sugar sweet. And that got some people thinking. They were working in a chemical lab and they had access to some testing equipment, and they ran some tests on it and they found that particular brand was mostly sugar. So that resulted in people returning their shipments or asking for like a refund from their credit card company, and they basically honored all of them because they pretty much got found out. So that's like a cautionary tale. Just kind of be careful. So like I said, for most things, I have Amazon Prime, so I'll look on Amazon first. Then I'll look on slickdeals.net and look for particular deals, and I'll tend to stock up on things so that I can buy a large quantity and have a lower price per ounce or per gram, or in the case of a protein bar, per bar. With that said, if you look in your program documents, I'm pretty sure that in every single person's document, there is a link to a company called MyProtein. They used to be a Europe-only manufacturer, but they've since opened up a US-based website, and I believe they ship to Canada from the US website. Prior to that, I used to buy Optimum Nutrition from Amazon, or sometimes from bodybuilding.com, because they have exclusive flavors. My own coach recommended MyProtein to me because the price was reasonable, but the primary reason was that it had a lower calorie per serving with higher protein and fewer fillers. So, if I really only drink protein shakes just solely to get protein. I don't really care. They don't have to taste amazing. They just have to not taste bad. So for the calories, I think it's like 20 grams of protein for 100 calories, around there somewhere. So I can really get a lot of protein when I need it for very few calories compared to other brands. Some of the other brands will have lots of carbs in it, lots of sugar. Some of them will put things like creatine. You have to look out for that. There's nothing wrong with creatine, but if you're not currently using creatine, it will cause bloating and it will make the scale jump up 5 to 10 pounds in some people. So you do have to be aware of what's in a protein supplement. So if you haven't already, my well, it's a hard statement. My MyFitnessPal account is MyFitnessPal / Chuck Gross. You can look at my food entries. You'll see that I most days am well over 200 grams of protein, and that's without using protein powders or bars. So I rarely use them. I normally travel pretty often during the spring and summer, and that's when I primarily would use protein supplements because I'll have multiple meals out on the road, and it's a little bit more difficult to make protein-oriented choices. So that's kind of when I tend to favor them. I bought a 5-pound bag of MyProtein chocolate nut flavor in July, I think, and I still have it sitting on top of my fridge right now. And I'll probably won't have to buy another one before spring. But that's kind of the one I'm going to go with. I like their flavor option so far. I've had a couple other people buy them per my recommendation, and they like the flavors too. Found that they mix pretty well. Another option I used to buy from here when I wasn't buying Optimum Nutrition from Amazon is True Nutrition. They used to be called True Protein. They have pretty good prices. They can let you customize your order. So that means you can pick what sweetener is being used. You get to pick any add-ins you want, meaning if you wanted to add more carbs to it, you basically control the balance. And you can get it like flavorless. You can pick the flavors. You can mix the flavors. You can get the flavor as like a separate thing you add in when you make your shake. You can specify the ratio of proteins. They have options for if you want a vegetarian protein powder or a vegan protein powder, or if you want a paleo protein powder. They have tons of options. I stopped from ordering from them because the shipping cost was kind of eating into the bargain, and their shipping seemed to take forever. They're in Southern California. I'm in Pittsburgh, so to go cross country, it just seemed to take forever when Amazon, I have Prime, I could get it in 2 days. So if that doesn't bother you, that might be worth looking at too. And if you need some clarification on any of those options, you can feel free to post in group or message me, and no problem, I'll give them to you. But there are people I know that live closer than cross country from True Nutrition. They've said they didn't have that problem with shipping, both in cost and speed. So if you live closer to California, that may even be a better option for you, because just based on the customization that they give you. So I think that covers that one. On to the next question. The next question is, should I be warming up, cooling down, and stretching before and after workouts? So, to continue, I've asked this question to a variety of people and professionals in the past, and I always get mixed answers: yes, no, or it depends on the workout. All right, so the one thing that you shouldn't do is static stretching before you work out. Static stretching is where you get into a stretched position and you hold it, almost like bending down, touching your toes, and holding that position. Or if you're like sitting on the ground with one leg out in front of you and grabbing your toes and holding that position, that's static stretching. You don't want to do that before working out. The reason for that is that it inhibits your stretch reflex beforehand, and that can negatively impact your performance, and it limits how your muscles are able to use energy during your workout. It's not going to prevent injury. It's a negative thing to do. You should not do it. That goes for both cardio and weightlifting. You can pretty much ignore static stretching in general unless you have a specific problem to address, and that's something that would require like a physical therapist to address. So if that describes you, you would defer to a physical therapist in that regard, because static stretching can be used to increase mobility or aid in specific injury recovery, or anything like a lingering problem such as not specifically related to an injury, but something that's a problem as far as pain management. So that's kind of where static stretching falls into, but it's not something you should do before workouts unless you're being directed by an actual doctor to do so for a specific purpose. The opposite of static stretching is dynamic stretching, and that kind of encompasses two different things, and that just really means moving around. So that can include things like jumping rope, jumping jacks. For shoulders, it would be like doing shoulder windmills, where you basically move the body part around just to get some blood moving to it and kind of get your body ready for that movement pattern. It also covers dynamic stretching. To me, covers also your warm-up sets. So in the case of weightlifting, it would be doing the primary movement that you're going to be doing with lighter weights. So let's just say, for example, you're going to be doing squats. And in the case of someone doing a goblet squat, with a dumbbell, your working weight would be, let's say, 30 pounds. So prior to doing the 30-pound working set, I'd recommend doing 2 to 3 warm-up sets. You could start with 50% of your working weight, and maybe even the third set of like 75% of your working weight. Sorry, my cat is digging into a craft box and trying to nap in it. So sorry, he's really distracting me. So for example, with the 30-pound weight as your working set, you could do a set at 15 pounds and then a set at 20 pounds if you like, prior to starting your working sets. And that will just kind of prime your body to work in that movement, get the blood moving, and it's a dynamic stretch just in being in the movement, and it's well below what your work threshold is. So it should allow you to kind of get ready for the movement and get that blood flowing. So those don't count as your working sets. You can track them on Photocracy if you like, or you can really not worry about it. The idea is not really to like progress in your warm-ups. It's really just to get your body ready for the movement and kind of knock off some dust and go from there. So you can do dynamic stretching for all of your movements. You can add in the warm-up stuff like jump rope, jumping jacks. Sometimes I'll just hop on a stationary bike and do like 5 minutes of light work on the stationary bike to get my lower body warmed up. And then for upper body, I would just do something like whatever movement it's going to be. I'll just do a couple warm-up sets. I'm not going to do a warm-up for every single exercise unless I'm particularly feeling beat up and sore and tired. And that's really one of those cases where you kind of want to play it by ear. Any movement that's going to encompass your entire body, you should probably do a warm-up for. But as you get towards the end of your workout, it's going to be less necessary. It's warming up is pretty literal, meaning like if you're coming in and you're just kind of used to sitting around prior to the workout, you kind of got to get your blood moving, warm up a little bit, get the joints moving and ready to actually do some work. So that covers the stretching aspect, but warming up and cooling down, as far as I'm concerned, are pretty much specific to cardio. And that's important for cardio because normally for cardio, regardless, there's like a working respiratory resting heart rate that you want to be working in for as far as your breathing and your heartbeats. That's like where you're getting the most work done at. And you don't want to go from standing or sitting there to your working spot. And then you don't want to just stop abruptly either. So that's where I'd recommend both warming up and cooling down with cardio. And it could be something like 5 minutes. So, if you're going to be doing, I'm not a fan of running myself because I have some foot problems that kind of prevent it. But let's say if you were going to be running, you'd probably want to do a light walk or a brisk jog for 5 minutes, do your running, and then do the exact same thing to cool down. So like, as I said, it's not, you don't want to go straight from just standing there to a rapid work movement. You kind of want to ease into it and then ease out of it. That pretty much covers the basic cases regarding warming up, cooling down, and stretching before and after. Another thing that may be good is like some mobility work, and that's with like a foam roller. Just because my Christmas tree is over there. This is if you've never seen one, this is a foam roller. It's basically like a giant pool noodle, but it's a little bit firmer. And you can kind of lay on it and put it in the spots that kind of need it. And if you sit as often as I do to work, I have a PVC pipe with tape on it, and it kind of performs the same purpose, but it's really painful if you're not used to it. And then I have a bunch of other things like my hips are incredibly tight because I mentioned I have like a decent drive both ways. This is the same concept. These are just hard plastic. They almost look like napkin holders for fancy napkins, but you could kind of just dig into the sore spots and basically break up the tissue to let it heal faster. So I end up having to use this on my hips because my hip flexors are incredibly tight from sitting so often that if I actually want to do exercise and I don't do this, it's likely to lead to a lower back injury for me. There's been at least one time in the past 6 months where I thought I'd be sly and not do it. And I ended up hurting my lower back just because my hips were so tight that, everything just got all messed up. So those are the type of things. You don't need to buy all that stuff. I just, like I said, I have a home gym, so I'm like a collector of things. My wife is a Highland Games athlete, so that's the type of stuff she uses to warm up with before going onto the field for the sporting events. So those are some things you may want to keep in mind. That the stuff I just showed you is not necessary. That's kind of as like a if you're kind of feeling kind of beat up and your recovery is not, it's taking longer than you think it should, those are some things that can kind of let you target specific areas. In addition to that, you can use like a lacrosse ball to kind of roll out specific areas that hurt too. But in those particular cases, those are accessories, those are supplementary. What people tend to do is that they start adding all this stuff in, and you end up doing all this other crap more than you actually do the work that's doing most of the benefit for you. So I think it's important to maintain that balance of do the minimum amount of things that will allow you to safely do what you actually want to do without adding a bunch of extra time onto your workout. If you're spending more time stretching and foam rolling and doing mobility work than you are actually doing any work, it's possible that you're going to be spending so much time working out that it's like too much time that you can't make it work as often as you like, and you kind of fall out of the habit, and that's not what we want. So it's just one of those things where you kind of have to just do the minimum that you feel you need to cover this so your body's ready to safely do the exercises. And I think a great start would be the dynamic warm-ups and the warm-up sets, and then kind of going from there. And with the cardio, the warm-up and the cool-down for sure. If you have a specific case where you think you might need something, you feel free to ask me. I'll be more than happy to kind of walk through your specific situation. But like I said, in my case, I don't use this stuff every day. It's just there are some days more than other where I feel particularly. I always give it like a day or two to recover before I hit to that stuff. But if I'm particularly hurting, I'll just break out one of those things and try to loosen up whatever is hurting and get it to heal faster and better. So I think that covers all of the questions that were submitted. So I'm going to switch over and see if anyone submitted anything through Q&A, and I'll check all the photocracy groups too. I don't know what just happened there. It just gave me an error message about terminating session or something. But I don't see any Q&A questions being asked right now. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the photocracy groups and see if anyone asked any during the Hangout. And if there's no further questions, we'll go from there. If you haven't participated in one of these before, I try to do one every week, and I'll let everyone know. It's probably going to be around the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, since I'm a early to bed, early to rise type guy. And these usually take place about half an hour after my kid's bedtime. So that's when I'm able to make it work. If anything during the Hangout has become an open-ended question for you, please ask for clarification. I'll be more than happy to discuss anything further. Should just be one more moment while I'm checking here. All right, I don't see any questions being asked, so I think we'll leave it at that and say good night. Everyone have a great night, and I will talk to everyone soon. Take care.